Shalom. This is Avraham Shira. Welcome to our Erev Shabbat talk. Last night on a class, someone asked a good question. I thought it's an important question for everyone. What do we do after the Hagim? What do we do after the month of Tishrei, the month of festivals and holidays and all kinds of action? It's a little empty at the end of the month. What do I do now? Where do I go? How do I return to the everyday, workaday life? And, I've thought about it a little more, and I made a list of things that I think help. The first I said last night was, go back to your sukkah. Sit in your sukkah. Meditate on the week that you had in your sukkah, if it was a good one. If it wasn't a good one, probably not a good idea. Go back to your sukkah and think about the things you learned. Meditate on what you learned. Try to think about, am I really moving towards those teachings in actualizing their power? Because we can learn a lot of things with our mind, but we need to actualize it. We need to get it down in our kishkes, as they say, into every fiber of our being. So meditating on what we learn actually helps the teaching penetrate the heart, penetrate the body, penetrate that part of us that's not so quick to listen. Okay, and when we sit and meditate on anything, we usually arrive at some form of gratitude and appreciation. And when we have gratitude and appreciation, we're actually closer to Hashem. Because gratitude and appreciation is like the pasuk that says, Yavo sha'arim b'tilah. Come to God's gates with praise. Don't come with a closed mouth, with a sour face, with an empty pocket, with a bad attitude. Right? Come to Hashem's house with praise. And of course, to praise something, you have to feel the gratitude first. So if you want to feel close to Hashem, start to praise and to feel appreciation and gratitude. Let's say you don't. Well, that's an individual work that every person has to do at different points in their life, maybe even every day. Of course, we can rededicating ourselves to the Torah, to our learning, will help us take the holiday month into actuality. And then on top of that, we can pick something new that we want to learn, something that we haven't really focused on in the past, some part of Torah that always kind of intrigued us, but we didn't put in the time. And there usually you'll find a lot of fruit and a lot of blessing and pleasure in learning something new. When you learn something new, chemicals are released in your brain to make you happy, so it's worth it. Of course, rededication to prayer is always, we always need to do that. And, this whole idea of appreciation kind of led me back to a question I'd asked earlier in context of couples work, that, one of the main things that you see couples have trouble with is appreciation. Why is appreciation so difficult? Why is it hard to appreciate this person that gave me their life and said, okay, let's do this thing together. Let's go on the journey. Well, we know that when familiarity breeds contempt is a rather strong phrase, but we see it's true. When you spend too much time with somebody, they start to get under your skin. You stop to see the good things that you like about the person in the first place, and all of a sudden, appreciation is out the window. It could be your best friend. It could be your family member. It could be your spouse. So you see that the familiarity is a conduit of something not so good. And all people suffer from this. We all need to reignite our relationships and to renew, the sense of appreciation for the person will lead us to see all the good points in that person. So that led me to the question about the creation of Adam and Eve. The Zohar teaches us that Adam and Eve were created back to back, like this, right? That they did not face each other. Now, why were they created back to back is one question. And what was the purpose of the ancillary purposes of creating them back to back? So on a very direct level, obviously, they were created without the ability to communicate with each other. They were created in a way that you couldn't see each other. They couldn't see each other's face. They were created, in a well, I guess connected at the spine. I believe they even have such a thing sometimes with twins that are created or connected at the spine, which is a very difficult thing, obviously. Well, it was difficult in the beginning too, because God had to separate them. But the reason, really, of course, is that we're created back to back is so that we can come face to face. And that, in one sentence, is the whole month of Tishrei. From Adam and Eve being created on the first day of creation, Rosh Hashanah, until the final moments of Simchas Torah and the Mincha prayer, especially of Shmini Atzeret Simchat Torah. That prayer is when they've come around from back to back, all the way to face. They get to know each other, they unify, they impregnate, and a new life form is created. That's in the shortest possible version of the kavanot of the month of Tishrei. And the month of Tishrei probably has hundreds of pages of kavanot in the books of the Arizal, the books of the Rashash. All of the latter day Mekubalim also are speaking about this. But for any person can understand the basic process, the little mini movie of what happens and what happened in the beginning in this week's Parsha and what happens every week through the weekday process and cycle. The male and female powers of creation are created again, Motzei Shabbat. They have to separate the 6 days of the week. They unite on Shabbat night, and then they elevate into Mincha of Shabbat afternoon. It's happening over and over. The 6 days are the days of creation. The seventh day is the union and the impregnation and, of course, the renewal of life. So when you see it this way, it makes such perfect sense. This ingenious design of God to make us part of creation and to make creation part of us, and we're living it out week after week. So Adam and Eve were the first, and the first ones to get tested, I should say. And they were created back to back. They did turn face to face. They did communicate and learn to communicate. But there was something in the communication that didn't work out too good. They missed each other's intentions. Adam told Chava that we don't touch that tree. And God had already told Adam, don't eat from the tree. So the rabbis talk about this, that Adam immediately set up a fence for Chava. Don't touch the tree. Don't even get near it. And that's not what God said. God said, don't eat from the tree. Now we know the story that Adam went off to take a nap and the snake came along and it seduced Chava, and there's different interpretations of what happened there, but the Zohar says he approached her from behind. Now when you approach somebody from behind, what's happening? This is let me see my hands here, this is face to face, right? So if one turns, they don't see the person behind them. So if someone's behind you, who's vulnerable? Well, the person who can't see the other one. So Chava couldn't see the snake in a proper way, and she was vulnerable to attack from behind, from the back. Now, elsewhere, the Zohar says that the evil inclination enters a person between his shoulder blades, along the spine. Now, that's a very deep statement. That if you experience it yourself, you'll say, wow. Literally. So what does that mean, though? The evil inclination enters through between our shoulder blades. Of course, that's exactly opposite the heart. The heart is the storehouse of the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, the spark of God resides in the right side of the heart. But on the back side, the left side, the left side is what we call the place of the madur, a klipot, the place of the evil inclination. And why is it behind the back? Because, well, that's the place that's vulnerable. So when Adam and Eve were first created, they actually were back to back. It was a way of protecting them, of keeping themselves innocent, keeping themselves not exposed to somebody else's negativity. If they'd been created face to face, fine, they could have begun communicating immediately. But then they would not have had the experience of not communicating. They would not have the ability to appreciate something that they had once had. So we have to appreciate not having something to come to real appreciation. And, I've worked with a lot of divorced men, and I'm telling you, it's not a happy business out there in our generation when it comes to divorce. And unfortunately, a lot of times people have to separate in a real legal way in order to appreciate the other. 80% of people, after 10 years of marriage, said they would go back to their original partner. After 10 years of divorce, would go back to their original partner. So when you think about that, you wonder, well, maybe 20% had a real good reason to divorce. Regardless, Adam and Eve, they were put in a vulnerable position. They were in a position to protect each other from the other's negativity. You hear that? It's a deep thing. That if people have each other's back, so to speak, that famous phrase, literally, in a relationship, I'm protected from your negativity and you're protected from my negativity when we're back to back. But if that happens, we don't have communication. So we don't have union. So we don't experience love and appreciation and all the other good things that come out of a relationship. So a risk has to take place. The risk of turning face to face. The risk of being vulnerable with somebody else. Of being truthful with your feelings. Of being open to somebody else's feelings, even if they're negative. And that's the test. And Adam and Eve had to go through it, and every couple since then have had to go through it. And if anybody thinks that they're the only one that suffered in this, wake up. You're not alone. But it doesn't make the pain go away too fast if you're in a relationship that's not working too well. It still hurts. But when we understand the genius of God's creation and how He created us, then we understand there are so many teachings embedded within this. Okay? So we see, for example, when a person is talking to someone face to face and then they turn their back on you, what does it mean? They turn your back on me. They let you down. They abandoned you. They cut you off. That's literally turning the back. What I'm doing is turning my negative side to your face. Because in Kabbalah, all the front side of a person is where you emanate light. Your eyes, your smile, your whole face, everything about you, your heart, your hands is working forward, moving positive energy comes from the front side of a human being. The back side of the human being is the place where the contraction takes place, where the negativity wants to dwell, where the aggression begins. A lot of the negative emotions are actually connected to the back and the spine. This is the reason why, what does anybody want when they first want to feel better? They want a massage. Well, nobody wants a massage up here on their chest. They want a massage on the back, on their shoulders and their neck, because they're storing all that stuff up there. And even as I bend my neck forward, it feels a little better. So, when we turn our bodies become teachers of this spiritual reality. The front is giving the light. The back is absorbing the negativity. And if I turn my back on somebody, it's a negative thing. Certainly if they're relying on me. So in a relationship, it's very important that we try to face each other face to face, even if it's negative, because if I turn my back, that means I'm in cutoff mode. I'm stonewalling. I'm blocking. I'm not receiving. And that really spells the beginning of the end of a relationship. Now, Chava and Adam, the Kabbalah teaches us, also had to separate. Now, since they lived a very long time, their separation was equally long. The Arizal teaches us it was 130 years of separation. Now, remember, I guess that's not too much if you live to be 930 like Adam did. And Chava, we're not told exactly how long she lived, but let's assume she lived a long time as well. Now, that sounds outrageous, these kinds of ages that the Bible gives in the beginning, but not when we understand the technology behind the genetics of the human body. We understand that they've already found an aging gene. And if you can slow that gene down or turn it off, what's going to happen? A person's going to live a long time. Okay, so it's not about not being old. It's about slowing down, losing your youth. Staying young means staying, doing, being young. Okay, so Adam and Eve, they had to go through all these tests. But being created back to back was a symbol of the lack of communication, and we still have this happening every day, all day, in all kinds of ways. You know, you walk into a store, the teller refused to look at you. How do you feel? Well, what am I'm doing here? I'm here to buy something from you. You won't even look at me. Doesn't feel nice. It's not very professional. That's because they're refusing the contact, the face-to-face. Or you have a relationship with somebody and they're always looking off into space while you talk to them. I mean, as a teacher, I get that all the time when people are spacing out in a class. Okay, that's their right. You know, it's not my right to get upset about it, but it's their right to get spaced out. But you understand that if you want to communicate and share precious things like the teachings of the Zohar, like we are today, I want to connect. I need to be eye to eye, face to face, and not with my face in my screen. So this is something that we're all dealing with in our generation. I think we're most challenged by the attraction of the iPhone itself. The smartphone is radiating light that attracts the eye. The eye is designed to attract images. That's its job. So it's always going to look for images. But if I become a person who's constantly following my eyes, first of all, I'm not really with the Torah. The Torah says, "Lo taturu acharei levavchem acharei einechem." Don't go after your eyes. Well, the eyes, what are they going after? They're going after all these images. And that's why it says in the beginning, in the creation story, Chava. That's right, Diojo. Vasconcelos Pessoa is a beautiful name, Diojo. Yes, that is correct. We are one people. We are all one race. Now, there's many mixtures, obviously. And we're even told in the Bible that there were angels that came down and mixed with certain people. They seem to be the ones that always want to take charge, right? They're the ones that feel they have that because they had knowledge and information and power that the human race didn't have. But that's another whole story that'll be coming up in the Parshiot of Avraham Avinu and Noach also. But regardless, we know that we are here to communicate. Communication heals us. It heals us with our parents, with our children, with our spouses, with our bosses, with our employees, with our neighbors, with strangers. Communication is the agent of healing on every level. And it's up to us. Well, the best thing is to learn the right way to communicate with our voice, to communicate with our eyes, to communicate with our hands, we communicate with our body language. And if I am whole and I'm at peace, then I can be there for you, even if you're not. But if I'm upset, then how much can I be there for somebody else? So Chava and Adam had to work this out with the fruit. We say that Chava, said, well, Adam asked her, what did you do? She ate from the tree. Well, it looked good to the eyes. It looked good to the eyes. Of course, it wasn't just the fruit looking good to the eyes. It was the seduction of the snake was the seduction that you can be, if you eat from it, you'll be like God. Come on, listen to me. You want to be like God, don't you? You don't want to be a human being. You don't want to be a lowly creature that has to walk around and maybe buy a car someday. You know, you don't want to be a person that has to always look for your food every day. That's you know, you're going to be cold in the winter and hot in the summer, and the mosquitoes are never going to leave you alone. Don't you want to be like God? That's a big temptation. That was really the sales pitch that the snake gave Hava. And you know what? All she had to do was answer him, thank you very much. I'm already like God. That would have fixed the entire story. I don't need to eat from the fruit because I already know I am part of the tree. I am made from the tree of life. And when I know that I am part and one with the tree of life, I don't need to eat what God says, don't eat this. You'll get the fruit, don't worry. But I'll give it to you in a safe way. In a way without these external forces. But the snake said, no, no, no. Got to eat first. And then you get to be like God. Of course, he was lying. By eating, we got the opposite of God. We got death. And the curses. The curses of work. The curses of enduring childbirth. The curses of all the aspects that we know so well from the material world. But we need to know who we really are, who we really were. In the beginning, we were not cursed. We were not like the people that we know today. People that die, they get sick, that turn away, they turn their shoulder, their back on you. No, this doesn't happen when you are attached to the tree of life. And so this is really the direction we want to take, the beginning of a new year, a new reading of the Torah. We have a lot of parshas ahead of us, but Beresheit, is an amazing life study. Do not think that this week we learn Beresheit and then we leave it. No, we always are learning the story of Beresheit. That's why Tikkuni Zohar, the special book of the Tikkunim of the Zohar, deals essentially with the very first moments of creation. And if I was an astrophysicist, I would want to know about that. So you could tell your friends, all the astrophysicists out there, if you want to know about the beginning of creation, learn the Zohar. And then it'll help you in your science. And so, but regardless, we are here. Shabbat is coming. And Shabbat, of course, is the culmination of this whole process of this separation of Hava and Adam to come back together. And on Shabbat, God said, now be together. Be kind to each other. Be loving to each other. And you will heal. Sexuality, my friends, was given to us to heal our relationships. It wasn't given us to merely exercise our desires. Because when a person has really healthy relationship, their sex life heals them and their partner. So I want to bless everyone with that. The healing of relations, the healing of their union with those that they care for. Because that's what we're here to do. And then we rediscover our godliness. So, it's a perfect system. And we're merit to be here. We have to appreciate that we can talk like this, that we appreciate that we have these great books from these great people who sacrificed for these books to be in our hands at this time in history. And to have appreciation for the technology that we can all connect and share and move the word out there of the real truth in the world. And when everybody gets this, Rabbi Nachman says there's going to be world peace like we never had before. Because all the lies are going to be dissipated by the light, by the truth that we have within. God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you next week on our daily class on Patreon and all the outlets. And should only have peace in your heart and peace with the world. All the best.